from Late Night Parents. Ways to follow the show, latenightparents.com. Doing a more than regular pod nowadays. Shawn Armor, True Armor, is on the line, and we were talking a little pop culture last night. But I guess we're going to get into the bowels of politics. Something I used to like to talk about, but Shawn, you still like to talk about politics, or you?
I do. It's one of the joys, right? I like to know what you think about politics and how you came to your conclusion. But I also like to know a little bit about you, about your history, of like where you're from. So then I can sort of extrapolate why you believe what you believe, and get the tone and tenor of if it's sort of an honest assessment, you know what I mean? If your parents taught it to you, and you're just doing it because your parents taught it to you and it's what you know, or if you're honestly, let's say, misled, right? And someone, because this has happened to me before, someone came in and offered new information, which sort of changed my worldview. I was like, really? I didn't know that, right? I had to go research it for myself. But I'm gonna wrap it up. I'm gonna wrap this up real quickly.
No.
Right. So I like to talk politics.
I don't want you to wrap it up. I don't want you to wrap it up. I just want to say, I just got one question. Did you fact check it?
Well, yeah. You know, in the age of internet, if you don't, you're a crazy person, right? So if someone says something, you Google it. I tell my family all the time when we argue. I'm like, it's a smartphone. You can look this stuff up. I'm not like, gaming you. So it's that kind of thing. But other people are just intransigent. They are right, and that is it. And talking to them, after you talk to them for like 10 minutes, you can get the feel of what kind of arguer, let's call it that they are, what kind of how they discuss the topics, kind of thing. I love a good and spirited debate, but good and spirited debates rely around facts. And, a lot of people are just right because they sit in one of two camps, minimum two camps, and usually like three or four. And once you get like the atheists involved in it and, this or that political group, then you've got the far right and the right, and you've got, I guess, some northern south people. And before you know it, you're coming at the same topic from four different angles, and nobody wants to listen to each other, and everybody just wants to be right. So the best way is to talk to people that you like around food and wine, and, because you get a sense of those people. You go, man, you crazy. That's good. And then they can set you straight. Or, even if they don't agree with you, there really isn't hard energy behind it. You will still love these people and have a beer with them as you talk football the next time and argue about why won't the Giants get a new quarterback, that kind of thing. So, yeah, I love talking politics, but it depends on who you are and how I feel you out with. If I really give my all an honest assessment of 1,000 topics that I would love to talk about. I think we as Americans need to talk about these things. It's a shrine. What is it? I always forget these. This idea of freedom of speech, freedom of the press, they're tied together. You can say it, you can write it. And now this whole new thing of just, you can say it, but there's consequences. That's just some snide way of dealing with people that you may not like, and eventually they will make that like a system to deal with dissent, how they let you talk and then attack you later for it. But at the end of the day, if you say something I don't like, the traditional American method would be to call you out into public, right? And maybe you'd have a debate about a conversation, might end up on one of 1,000 podcasts. The populace would hear you and go, okay, they totally misrepresented that guy. I don't agree with him, but I totally don't think he's a whack job now. Or you might be like, that guy totally makes sense, or that lady totally gets it, or whatever the case may be. But nowadays, it's just people are confirming their biases by only hanging out with people who agree with them. So, if I'm not in your Twitter feed and then I meet you at a bar and you go, Trump is great, and I go, yeah, and you're a black guy, and I'm a black guy too, and I'm sitting here going, that's interesting. Tell me why Trump is great, because now I'm interested. But in other arenas, all of a sudden, you get bad energy from people who don't like that you're not voting like they think you should be voting, and you're not. You may still be in the Democratic Party, just support Trump, and that kind of thing should be discussed and talked about. But it's always met with ridicule and sort of snide comments, and nobody's really honestly interested in the political opinion of why. They just want to be condescending and right. So, yeah, especially in this thing, ever since the election, and then before that, it was 8 years of this craziness with Obama, and then before that, it was 8 years of craziness with George Bush and, his intellect and the things he did and the people he was around, and Dick Cheney, and then comes Obama, and then there's all this stuff that they don't want to let them do, which I thought was racially bias-driven. But who do you talk to? If I say I think something is racially bias-driven and you don't, can we as Americans have a beer, sit in the park, watch like the kids play and the birds chirp and talk about it? I think the founders, I don't know if they envisioned that, but I think they'd be proud if that was the way we dealt with it. Versus, these Charlotte riots and this, everybody's reinventing like old TV shows, right? And I feel that people kind of want to reinvent some of these old political rivalries and get their bleeding Kansas on or something. I think politics is something all of us Americans, men and women, should have an interest in, right? We're children of rebels, if you want to look at it like that, when you think of yourself as American. I think a lot of people just think of themselves as hyphenated, which means they're more likely glorifying some other place while they live here than just fly one flag and have it out with your neighbor. And when I say have it out, I don't mean get ridiculous with your neighbor, but like talk crap, have a Flanders Homer Simpson relationship where you coexist, but you still like talk to each other, each other's family, and that kind of thing. But now the politics has gotten to the point where you just don't want to talk about it, and you just don't like the person with the opinion, not just the opinion, and that I think is a recipe for disaster in a nation like this. If that makes any sense to you.
Yeah, on many different levels. It's I don't know. I mean, the personalities took over. I mean, there's so many different ways you can go. I mean, lately, I would say post-election,
right?
I really don't like even talking about politics anymore, to be truthful, because there's just the divisiveness. Maybe it's because of my zodiac sign. I was just like, I don't want to deal with this BS.
Yeah, I think
I just remember the days when we could have a conversation,
right?
And we could be, okay, I agree, I disagree, you agree, we come out with our points, we have this debate, we crack the cold one, and we go, okay.
Right, exactly. And nobody wants to do that anymore unless you're going to, the degree for which you can disagree is only a degree or two. You can't be diametrically opposed, right? It can't be a 180-degree difference. And I don't know. It's something that's always been a part of our politics, and something that I think now is gotten silly because nothing's getting changed, and now people are just happy to.
I think the country stopped moving forward. The country stopped moving forward, of course, during the Obama era.
I would agree with that.
Stopped moving forward, and
I would agree with that.
We've been stuck on stupid. Where
I would agree with that. I think people who couldn't get their way essentially put the brakes on the government. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So only the everyday things got paid, like the military got paid, and you kept the lights. But as for thinking big or doing anything, I think they I mean, they've shown what they care about, and now here we are. And I don't think the Democrats are. I have a really dismal view of the American Democrats. I think that. Do you know the history of? I'll give a brief history of the antebellum period, right? So people from the North went south to make, some, investments after this whole thing. And, of course, people didn't like it because they were once like emperors sitting high in the hog, being able to do anything they wanted, and now they were living in essentially burned out and destroyed southern cities with a lot of their young men, dead and their property, black people, missing. So, but they came down with this kind of like, ooh, I'm going to make some money, like, in this whole environment. And that's what this whole thing seems to me to be. I think they've managed, the Democratic Party has managed to lock down the vote of black people, and they don't really actually have to do anything for it. I mean, and black people have been doing nothing but marching and complaining since like the early 70s. And you'd think, I mean, other than the march of time and technology, I mean, we still have the same issues, right? These police shootings and bad banking and, and now you find out that half of this, the people who beat you out of these jobs, and are the sons of people and friends of people, they just essentially buy their college degrees. So now you're suffering with this lack of faith in the system.
But they're elitists for specific reasons.
Well, yeah, they're elitists because they're elite at rigging the system for themselves, right? It's ironic that the Congress can put term limits on the President of the United States. The one office that all Americans vote for is the only national office. Every other office you vote for is either your city or a state representative, your congressman or your mayor or your senator, right? State reps. But your president and your vice president is the only nationally thing that we all vote on. So they can put a two-term 8-year limit on that, and they won't do that to themselves, right? I mean, it's a self-serving gig that they're in. They won't give you health care, but they've got brilliant health care for themselves, right? They can take advantage of stock market tips, but if you did that, it's insider trading and your ass is going to jail. So even as they point their finger at, Saudi Arabia, which is just ridiculous, and Iran, which we are going to war with, which is, and it looks like they've been working on going to war with Iran since about the mid-'80s. So, how dare you not talk politics? In a land where, your children are your greatest wealth and resource, how dare you not know what the people who will send them off to war if they enlisted or conscript them if they didn't, right? You need to not let those people rise, and those people always rise through dirty trickery and like lies and all the other bad things that happen in the American political apparatus. All that on the front side, while on the back side they gerrymander and take money from corporations and vote against you and let corporations write whatever laws they want. It's just the environment is I think the environment is problematic, and I think people should talk politics. Maybe you'll realize your problems aren't your neighbor; it's your representative, or maybe you'll realize that of all the representatives, this representative who's only been there for 8 years as a congressman or whatever should really, be the president, or you'll pay enough attention where someone running for president because he's the son of someone who was president, doesn't even get in the airways. But what happens is you're told who and what and why by this media push. So some people they'll leave out, some people they'll, ridicule, other people they'll ask, super ridiculous questions that can't be answered of that person, and others they'll just give a skate, and others they'll make the victim. You're right. Even no matter what their history was, they tried some of that with Hillary Clinton in the last election, with y'all hate women kind of march. And I was like, it's one approach, I guess, but it alienates the men who don't buy it. And I was right; it didn't work out. So
I mean, anywhere you look,
if she would have talked politics enough, Hillary Clinton never would have been able to get the nomination because everybody would have been like, no. I think people are openly rigging this thing. So talking politics is the only way to know that, oh, okay, I'm not crazy, and then you can challenge each other about where you got each other's information. But yeah, I mean, more talking about politics and less confirmation bias and hiding behind, or hanging with people who only see the world as you see the world. If you only hang around with people who only love vanilla ice cream, when you start hanging out with people who can introduce you to new ideas like chocolate chip and all these other kind of great ice creams, you owe it to yourself to at least investigate it. Maybe you'll hate it, maybe you won't, maybe you'll still love vanilla, but at least you'll have more information instead of going to war with those ice cream zealots who only believe in purest vanilla.
Any way you look at it, whenever you have a presidential campaign election, you got half of the country angry. You got half of the country on cloud nine. And I guess that's
do you mean after the election? Immediately after the election?
During the election and after the election.
Cloud
because
nine, really?
Either you're upset
on election night. Okay.
Either you're upset or you're elated. Come, the night at the morning after the election, November 9th, November 8th, whatever the day is for that Tuesday.
Second Tuesday in November, right? So what is that?
Yeah.
So the second Wednesday in November, all of a sudden, you're either really happy or really sad.
I mean, we saw all
Not
those.
My president starts trending on Twitter.
We saw all those women and people crying.
Yeah.
And just to sit here and think about it, this November is going to be 3 years later. 3 years later, and
it's still funny. And I'm a compassionate person,
tell you,
but it's still funny.
I tell you this, the narrative, the fact that maybe it's not that I don't like to talk politics, but it's to a point where, like I said, the message that's being put up there, the messengers that are pushing it, depending on the station you're looking at, it's either heavy left or heavy right. Or the only way for you to watch something nowadays, if there's Congresses in session, is for you to turn on C-SPAN so that you won't get that narrative either way. You're just like, hey, I just want to hear this. People that are in office, they toe the party line. How they like to reference my colleague from the other side of the aisle. I mean,
the gentleman from the state of X.
Sick of these cliches.
Yeah,
they're not doing anything for us.
Exactly.
We're not moving anything forward. We're actually moving it backwards.
It's all frosting. It all looks like it's Hollywood special effects where the cake looks like a cake, but it's cardboard and foam. That's what you're getting. You're getting people who don't solve your problems.
No.
And they get off like, they're fighting some war for you, whether it's in the middle of the country or it's blacks or it's women or it's not, but it doesn't ever seem to be, this idea that the I don't know, I'm stuck on this idea that and mind you, it's not just, this is what the white supremacists are pushing too, right? They're pushing the racial agenda. Everybody seems to be slotted in a corner. And like those sci-fi movies where, like, when the chips are down, everybody comes together. I hate to need one of those moments that you have to pull everybody together.
Because it won't happen now.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think people come here and raise their kids here to be part of the American economy. I think they could give a flying, hooey about who any of the founders were, why they founded it, or how it should have progressed and where could have went wrong and what we're trying to do to get to a quote-unquote more perfect union, right? Instead of, I don't want to live in Mexico because of the cartels and there's no economy, so I just want to hop the border and live in America and pick, that's, no. By my assessment, that's, you can't come here for that, just like the Haitians couldn't come here for that, right? I totally get bringing dissidents in who their government wants to kill them. You can smuggle them out, right? I mean, that's a freedom of speech thing. That's in our wheelhouse. We want you here in America. But just to come here because your nation, and mind you, a lot of people came here from Europe for this very reason, right? And if you look at the racial history, you can argue that was a bad idea. So why would you redo it with Mexicans, right? I could argue for or against this in any number of ways, and I've never heard anyone from Congress argue in any other way other than guilt or paranoia, right? So the Republicans are paranoid about these Mexican immigrants and who they're related to, and they could be Al Qaeda, and there are like rapists and drug dealers. What did they say? All of them are. Well, you know what Trump said when he was running, right? Versus the Democrats who are all like, oh, they're just moms and babies. Oh, you're putting babies in jail. You're like, what, are you kidding me? Right? So it's not. They're not what the media is telling you they are, and you owe it to yourself to talk to your neighbors and suss it out. Because mind you, we're not all of the same intellect. Some of us can better phrase things. So when you do this with people that you know and you like, you get insight into where we all need to be. Because at the end of the day, we have to pass it down to the next generation. And if you're not talking politics to the next generation, then their parent in their house are telling them what they're telling them. And we've seen that before. We've seen parents tell their kid racial nonsense and sex nonsense and not abandon. What do you do when your kid does something and you don't like it? You disown, right? And you disowning kids for Protestants marrying Catholics. And it's here, and they bring it, with them. So you have to instill a sense of American energy in people who come here. They just can't come here. So now we're talking about immigration. And immigration not just from Mexico, but from Europe and from Canada. And I think that's a lot of it. America had become sort of like this Europe, essentially, just a whole bunch of enclaves when everybody thinks they're absolutely right and nobody talks to their neighbor. And then we all watch the same TV shows, but we're not. And so those things kind of stick us together. We all know the borders of the country, and we all agree that this is a flag, but after that, everybody's a hyphenated kind of person, and they bring, do I want to call it old world views to modern world problems? Right? I mean, should we really still be having Charlotte marches against this nonsense, tiki torches, and you won't replace us? Who's trying to replace you? I mean, it's just someone should have caught on to this earlier. That and these shooters who show up in high schools, these sad, pathetic souls. So, I don't know. I think if you don't talk with your neighbor, then you do your community a disservice. And you do, I'm going to say it, you do this great nation a disservice, right? We're supposed to be a nation of people. You can't be a nation of segmented groups, because each segment groups then need some leader like that. What was that guy in Fallujah? Muqtada al-Sadr, who essentially ran a place as big as Brooklyn under like racial auspices. So, not racial, ethnic auspices, right? I want to say he was a Sunni, right? But I mean, they were armed and shooting it up and getting loose with it. And I always thought, how can you have that in your country? And it's in Afghanistan too. These warlords in the mountains and fighting season. America can't let it become this. And of course, maybe we won't call them warlords or religious, but like some of these people need to be on board with what it means to be an American, and it's not perpetually crying and perpetually demanding some nation be invaded and give all the money to the military. And it's also not perpetual open-door policies of giving cash to everybody and letting anybody who shows up here stay here, right? And meanwhile, while all that's going on, your eyes are shut to the real everyday problems of the working man and woman, which is healthcare issues, education and tuition issues, bless you, education and tuition issues, and just the idea of the American dream should be for the Americans. It's not something you should sell to Europeans to come here and take part in the most lucrative and, elite job offerings. No one's coming here from England to be a doggone grape picker, right? But they're all in your television and in Hollywood and all in your media. So you better be careful of what they're pushing, or you will lose the thread of what it means to be American, because I see it all the time. I do. I see it all the time. You practice your great American accent, then you move here, and that's it, especially if you're pretty, right? So, we've got some people from Mexico living like this, but that can't be all of them. We've got some people from Europe and some from Canada, and, that's all good, but they shouldn't – they should want to be here and not just work here in America making $60 million a year. And those of us who talk politics would have talked politics about this.
So here I got to interject a little bit, because I get stuck on the fact of looking at these parties. I got one party that wants to give me free college, free health care, free everything, right? Mm-hmm. And when it comes to it, when you ask the question, how are we paying for this, we're going to charge the rich. We're going to charge the wealthy.
Yeah.
Knowing that the rich, the wealthy, has every loophole, every tax break, and the best CPAs in the business to take care of this.
They rigged this thing that we're complaining about.
Right. The other side is telling me or telling my daughter that they have final say over her reproductive rights.
Right.
And I look at both sides, and I'm like, okay, I want to be down the middle. I want to go with the independents. Because...
But what do they stand for?
As I look at it,
somebody tell me what they stand for.
I don't agree with either one.
What do the independents stand for?
Independents are they lean towards the left, but they're closer towards the middle than either side.
If the independents actually stood for anything, they would have to gather themselves together to be a party, right? You can't be an independent party. You have to stand for something, right? So now you're a group standing for something. Excuse me. So once they get a building and a platform, I'm all in. Right now, I think the best word for this is unaffiliated, right? The term independent implies there's a group of you who all at least believe the same thing. And the one thing you all really, really believe is that you don't like either party. So you're really unaffiliated, right? Mm-hmm. But this magic term of independent implies you're an army of people willing to change your vote.
It's kind of like going to a non-denominational church.
Huh.
It's kind of like that, where you can sit here and you can say, I'm this, I'm Presbyterian, I'm AME, I'm a Baptist, I'm this, it's to the point of, okay, I believe in XYZ, but this is I'm a member at a non-denominational church. Where I'm there, I'm voting, I'm exercising my rights, but as per rolling with either one of these groups wholeheartedly, you got to question.
Right. I see your point. I guess that makes sense. I don't know. I always looked at independence as like at first I used to look at them as a group, but then I realized that they're a group that doesn't believe the same thing from person to person. So they're not really a group. They're like zombies, right? Right. Zombies don't have a unified plan. They just all are.
But they align. When someone says that they're independent, they're for the most part aligning with the core values of a Democrat. Rather than
not really. Some independents don't believe in abortion, right? You can't be a Democrat and believe in abortion, right? I mean that ends your political career with the Democratic Party. So there are tests, right? And some people are Democrats. Some people are independents who lean right rather, with gun, but lean left with gun reform, right? So they believe in all the things that the Republicans believe, but they believe that the guns should be a little more closely regulated, and they don't see what all the transit in our area. So they become independents, right? So some independents are 60-40 Democrats, and some are 60-40 Republicans. But when it comes to that push, that the fat meat of what we're looking at here, will they really change how things go? They always the independents who lean Democrat will always vote Democrat, and the independents who lean Republican will always vote Republican. So that's why I don't really think that they're a group that you can get a building and go, we believe this. Because once you go, hey, we're the Democratic Party, we're anti-abortion, a lot of those Democrats are going to go, whoa, wait a minute, we're pro-abortion. They go, no, we'll work it out later. And we're pro-gun, and then we're anti-gun, and then half the Republicans who lean are going to be like, whoa, we're pro-gun. Don't worry, we'll work it out later. You start this project with conflict and fissures all over the place. You see what I'm saying?
So tell me this. So tell me this. Supreme Court Justice, how many do we have?
9.
We have 9. Yep. Of the 9, what do you think is the most important vote? Is the swing vote usually the most important vote?
I guess so, always, right? The tiebreaker is always the most important.
Right.
Otherwise, it's a stalemate.
That could swing left or swing right.
Right.
You know, I mean, when it comes to it,
well, look, I think the ladies should get over there. This abortion thing is a wrap. You know why? Because 6 months ago, or maybe 9 months ago, the Dems made a deal with the Republicans to pass through like a lot of these judges, and those judges are going to be on the bench for the next 30 years voting against all this stuff. And when I saw that, I was like, the Democrats don't really care. I mean, what was the tactical political plan of that? You know, it's like allowing and I don't want to use, I want to be careful about using too many adversarial kind of like metaphors and similes, because I don't think that's helpful to us Americans. But the idea that you would give the opposing army like a leg up, it's crazy. You're gonna have to fight those judges coming down the line, and you know they were all conservative. They just let them pass through, and there was So those are the people that they'll be picking the next Supreme Court judges from for the next 40 years. So if they were serious, they should have been serious, and they're not. I don't think the Democrats have a plan, and I think the Republicans have a plan. It's just a sinister one. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I love to talk politics. I actually think that town halls, instead of all this reality TV stuff, should be regular, not just during political events, but you should get a town hall once a month on your ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox stations, where you get to ask them whatever you want to ask them.
I don't know how it works where you live in VA. So here in Long Island, depending on the municipality that you're living in or under, there's monthly town halls, meetings, all the above over here. You just have to be engaged and attend. Because you
but
can
yeah,
find
but see,
out
those
everything
guys
that's
are
going on.
motivated to get to the. Those guys are motivated to get to the next level, right? These congressmen are at that level. They don't need to. They can cancel them if they want to. They'll do them or not. And then you only really see them really super safe districts. This is why every now and then people get yelled at for bad votes, and they cancel these things, and they don't show up, and they make excuses, and they show up hat in hand. But when that's not it, all of a sudden everybody's, is just, I don't know, man, the way the system is running and how we do business in America with our politics, especially since the people need, and I do believe they need, doesn't seem to make any sense to me. So I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know.
No, I think it's the fact that but I think the problem is we get beaten down so much with the chicanery.
Yeah, exactly. Look, I'm pretty sure a lot of your listeners, had dreams of getting involved in running for office, but it was squashed because the system is not just rigged to keep them there; it's rigged to keep you out. So even if you knew the best thing to do with the water crisis in your neighborhood in Arizona, or the flooding in your neighborhood in Florida, or the bridge infrastructure situations you have in New Jersey and New York and Philadelphia and Detroit and California, all these places, even if you had the best plan because you once worked there or went to college there or taught there or just was a fan of it, had the best plan for it. In all the ways that good idea comes to random people in the world, whether they worked at them or they were blessed by the cosmos to come up with this great idea, it does not matter because Congress has boxed out fresh blood, essentially, sunlight and fresh blood. So sunlight is a disinfectant, and you always need fresh blood with new ideas and new perspectives, and we don't get that, and we just get to complain about why nothing works. So I don't know.
No, but I disagree because we've got a ton of junior Congress members that have joined that are making
brand new
enough noise.
They're like 20 years from well, you'd have to 20 years unless everybody votes everybody out. But they're like 10, 15 years from any real leadership power, right? I mean, they get to talk because they're Congress people, but nobody's putting, Ocasio-Cortez on chairman of anything where she can really – and mind you, the Congress also runs on seniority. So she's brand new there. Nancy Pelosi has been there since the friggin' 70s. So it's not just get rid of, like, old white guys running for president. It's just old white guys, old white ladies in Congress, right? It's maybe you should have, if age doesn't matter, then maybe you should have a term limit on how long they could be there. But if you're not going to do that, then maybe they should age out. But it's not conducive to the average man and woman in America and their hopes and their dreams. You got 80-year-old people and 70-year-old people in Congress about to tell women what they can do with their bodies, and they're long past this stage in their life, right? You also have those people doing the same thing about police enforcement, like they know what it's like to chase anybody down. You've got perpetual worship of the military as if saying maybe all this war and all this, blood and treasure going overseas is a bad thing, makes you a communist because you want all the, to be a dove is like, you might as well be a pedophile, for God's sake. You know what I'm saying? So the environment is driven toward a place that I don't think the average American wants to go to, right? We want health care and college and a fair chance to prepare ourselves in college and high school to enter the world and fight it out for the best jobs and the best ideas versus having to be driven in debt and all these shady things by these medicine wagon men. So, yeah, I don't know. I keep saying I don't know.
I mean, you know,
yeah.
you just sound like a
I guess
a
I don't know
person
the solution. I know what the problem is. I don't know what the solution is.
No, but you sound like a person that's just been beaten down to the point where you've just lost your faith.
I have, and I had faith for a long time. Maybe I've had faith for far longer than I should have had faith. But yeah, now it's to get me not to vote would have been a chore a while ago. Now I'm like, maybe I will, maybe I won't. Just because you can't guilt me into doing it because you need me to do it, right? So these are where we're at now. These hopes and these dreams that you've held on to for so long, you have to eventually give up or be foolish, right? And I've held on to long enough that at this point I was able to make excuses for why I was such a believer in this system. And now I just have to be like, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, it's wholly unfair, and it doesn't seem to be getting better. So, but I think the great fix would be more people, running for office. I really do, and less people staying there forever. Every occasionally you'll get somebody who you want to stay there, and that should trigger something. Oh, so and so has hit this mark, and everybody in the Congress and people have consigned to let him stay longer, but because he's this unique political figure. But that's not everybody. He's been sitting there for 40 years and done nothing other than push division. So I mean, I don't know, and I also believe that about the presidency. I mean, we've got 8 years, but someone will be a transformative president, and they should be allowed to stay longer, right? So I don't see why. Well, I do see why the system fails so many, and I think that's because the people at the top don't have these concerns. And to prove it, remember that hearing about the tech world, and none of these congressmen knew what it was, and I think they thought Apple owned Google or some. They were just
they were ill prepared.
Yeah, and and here's the thing: you have all these young people working for you. Someone obviously put together a brief that you were too old and lazy to read, or they didn't even bother to put together a brief, which means you shouldn't be there because the team who supports you is inept. You know what I mean? I don't see how that. I can't come up with an excuse for why that happened, but I can come up with at least 5 for why that shouldn't happen. And those guys were lacking, right? They were derelict in their duty as Congress people to get to the bottom of it. And at the end of the day, what happens? Nothing. They have these Congress hearings, and people get up there and show up and show out, as my mom used to say. And there's no penalty. No one's going to jail. It's not like you can be held in contempt, and what do? You have Mark Zuckerberg there. I mean, it's just at this point I can't keep watching it because it's just ridiculous. So now I just watch C-SPAN because I'm still following politics.
So you don't watch cable news anymore?
No. I think
okay.
I haven't watched cable news for like at least 3-4 years, and I was souring it on it then. I think MSNBC is the same thing as Fox News, just for Democrats. I think Fox News has been what's the word I want to use? I think Fox News has been finding their own truth now long enough that they're good at it, and I think MSNBC is trying to do that with Democrats. But yeah, I think it's all just some of the shadier business. I don't know. I think we're in the era of those like 1960s paranoid political movies, like All the President's Men and and what's the movie where I don't know, it's shot out of my head. But the Manchurian Candidate with Frank Sinatra in like 1962 or 63. But I'm trying not to be paranoid. I'm like, surely, I mean, it's just me being weird about it, and it'll all straighten out. But I've always been interested in politics, and I've been watching it for a long time, and it just gets goofier and goofier. And now it's at its goofiest. So at this point, to save my face, some transcendental, political figure has to show up and give us health care and fix this border issue, fix the criminal justice system, fix the banking system, deal with these agents of the Middle East who play these ridiculous games, bombing boats and stuff, and cut the military budget, all while not making people panicky or weird or afraid, and still engendering the goodwill and being kept in the good graces of the American military, which is important. And yeah, I just don't think all these elderly people in Congress, that old folks home, is going to do it for me. I mean, what is it? You have to be at least 34 to be president of the United States. If you can't be 21 to be president, because trust me, somebody would have elected Justin Bieber to be president. And when somebody would have said he's not even American, he's Canadian, they would have changed the law so foreigners could be president. And then your next president will be Arnold Schwarzenegger, who coveted that job since he's been governor, right? So these people will just treat this great country and its systems for their own behavior. They're just used as a golf course.
Hey,
so yeah.
Please don't reference golf and a golf course, because I would prefer to talk golf and the new drivers I'm gonna get, and I'm thinking about truthfully what gift to put in for Father's Day, because what I usually do is with here. I'll take whatever I'm interested in. It's something that's with a nominal fee, and post a picture on the side of the refrigerator. And that's
nudge, nudge, wink,
like
wink.
My code. Wink, wink.
Right.
This is what I want.
Right.
I mean, I would prefer to be sitting here talking to you about your golf game and what I guess finding out whether or not you've started going back to the range, and are you prepared?
I should, and I haven't, because I'm new at it, and just go to the driving range and swing. I'm still on my first set of clubs, but I want the. Yeah, we can talk golf. I want the traditional golf experience where I'm out there in the weird getup on a golf course, drinking in the afternoon. That's the experience I want, because that tells me if I can get there, I'm less weird about how I'm holding the club and what I'm swinging, and I'm just kind of like enjoying the day in the sun with some people. But right now, it just seems like I just want to break all the clubs and can't find my ball and. Those kind of like cliche things, but yeah, golf.
No, I'm with you.
It's funny. You really do age into golf. I remember not being a fan of golf, and then watching Tiger Woods play, and was like, yeah. And then did some research, looked it up. Always knew that it came from Scotland, but was like, meh, whatever. And then really looked it up and found out about all these. Who's the famous guy? Ben Hogan. And you were like, oh, really? Oh, okay. And, it's summer and it's sunny, and why not? So then, Tiger Woods sort of changed my view of it. And as I get older, I was like, it's not baseball. I'm not sliding into second. You know what I mean? So yeah, golf is. You will appreciate